I joined the Dungeons & Dragons Society and was glad to get into it, as I had been playing since I was 11 years old. Luck would have it, there was a guy on the acting course who was starting a campaign. I messaged with him on Discord and even offered to help draw some maps for it. I'm an illustration student. Time finally comes for session 0. We all meet. I brought some kind of baked cookies. We all get to talking about where we're from respectively, as there was a foreign student from Romania there. In the midst of chatting, the dungeon master looks at me and jokes how it must be nice for me not to worry about school. Whoa, okay. I am absolutely agog. Agog? I was offended by the joke, but I'm more offended by this language use. Agog? I'm kidding. Kind of not, though. I'm absolutely agog at the gall to say this to a practical stranger, not to mention all the instances at my own school where a student would show up with a weapon. He proceeded to make weird comments about my nationality throughout the campaign, mostly implying I wasn't as smart at the table because of stereotypes and other lovely quips. He also seemed to foster a lot of animosity towards my player character as well, as way over-leveling all the bosses and making any and all combats just grueling and really painful. Maybe he didn't like that my bard seemed to be the only one that could deal actual damage to enemies. I'm glad I got the heck out of there and found a better adventuring party to play with. I'm sure there are times and places for dark humor, but even among my good friends, I don't think a joke like that would land. And on top of that, I mean, come on, man. Total strangers are probably not the audience. So some context, I've played around with Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder, and White Hack? That's a new one. There we go. Playing with those for a bit. I know my way around the role-playing field, and although I tend to lean into any kind of magic/spellcaster-based classes, I am totally up to learn new classes and new characters. I'm on my 3rd year of college, and have spent these 3 years in my college's Dungeons & Dragons Club. In this club, we run not only 5th edition, but other OS as well. I myself am running Star Trek Adventures 2D20 campaign during the time of this event, and still to this day. At the time, I was looking around for a campaign to join on the off days when I wasn't narrating the stellar adventures of the USS Odyssey A, and I found a group on our club's Discord looking for a player to join a Starfinder campaign. Now, at the time, I was pretty tight schedule-wise. I'm a college writing tutor at our school's writing center, and I'm a lifeguard on the weekends, on top of trying to earn an education major and psychology minor. Oh, okay, seriously. Everybody I know is in psychology. All my friends were in psychology. Fall Cosplay is in psychology. Not just her, but a bunch of my business associates also in psychology. Like, what the heck? Anyway, I'm not usually active on servers unless it's scheduling the occasional hello, or if I have a nice weekend or day off. Oh, and of course, if it's an emergency, such as I'm sick and I can't make it. Essentially, the character is supposed to be involved with building a whole interstellar empire from the ground up. I myself, upon seeing most of the group picking classes that would take them into a combat/spellcaster route, decided to try more of a group diplomat role and build a charisma-based character who, while great with an energy pistol, preferred talking, negotiating peace, and beneficial relationships. We had our session 0 and we successfully made our characters. I was excited and pumped to help build an empire from nothing. Although I was terrified for my character's sake, he was probably going to handle all the late-night administrative work. Here's where the trouble happens. Around Friday night of our session 1 week, 2 days before the session starts, the Dungeon Master messages me on Discord. God, I am so excited for that game. I'm literally going to be playing this very week, and I thought about it and decided to remove you from the group. I don't think that your interests align with the science fiction theme of the campaign, and I don't think your character will work. What the hell? Now here's the thing. I am always happy to change, edit, even recreate or make a whole new character if there are any issues in the campaign. I even help out the people in my Star Trek campaign who struggle with their characters, and I have never faulted them if they want to change or make a brand new one. But never in my entire time with any tabletop role-playing game have I witnessed a Dungeon Master kick out a player mere days before the campaign even starts. I immediately knew he was lying to me and called him out, telling him that his reasoning was rather bogus. Seriously, you're telling the Star Trek nerd that his interests don't align with your space sci-fi campaign, and that I wanted the real reason. He never responded to any of my Discord messages, though. I eventually, after getting no response, talked to other people. One of my STA players apparently was the person who dropped out of this campaign and left the spot open when I was supposed to take it. According to her, he had sent her several messages on Discord, constantly adding her and even trying to VC her several times during her class. This wasn't for scheduling reasons or reasons about the campaign, but because he was mad she wasn't active as others in his campaign server and didn't respond to them. No! After that, she told him to knock it off and said she would leave the campaign if he didn't stop bombing her phone during class and work. He then responded with, "I don't know why you treat that stuff so seriously. D&D is way more important," which made her mad, and she left. Look, I love Dungeons & Dragons, and to a degree, you do need to pay attention to your Discord, Make sure to respond to scheduling, and make sure to be open about when you're available. There's nothing worse than someone who is not communicating with the group, who no-call, no-shows, etc. That stuff sucks, especially if the rest are putting in the effort. But you don't need to put in that much effort. At the end of the day, this is a game you're playing for fun, and as long as somebody is responding to scheduling stuff, I don't care how active they are in Discord servers. I have never once seen a Dungeon Master getting so upset about something like this, which, God, that is shocking considering how many horror stories we've done in this show. I feel like I should have seen something like this by now, but no, this is brand new to me. A DM who gets this offended over people not seeing their memes? Come on, man. Now, again, I do get it. You want to be friends with your D&D group. That's awesome. In fact, I recommend that. But trying to, 1, force that is cringy and bad. And 2, even if you are friends with people, you're not going to spend every second with them. I mean, God, I'm a pretty isolated dude. I love hanging out with my friends, but when I'm not hanging out with my friends, I'm valuing my alone time. And they understand that. God, people like this guy, they piss me off. We were playing a tabletop role-playing game similar to 5th edition, but set in the real world. Our campaign saw us traveling around the globe to intercept the big bad evil guy's forces as they tried to collect MacGuffins, cause chaos, and establish themselves as the new rulers of the world. Never heard that one before. All that's left are 4 crystals that represent the 4 elements, and then boom, you got every JRPG and... I'm kidding, there's nothing wrong with that. Then, tragedy struck. The Dungeon Master got the bright idea of changing things up tone-wise, and having our squad go to a certain country that doesn't take too kindly to outsiders in order to balance our mission and political unrest. A little weird, given our game up to that point, but I was giving them the benefit of the doubt, and I could kind of see what they wanted to go for, so I optimistically hoped that we could speed through this in one session like other locales before it. However, my worst fears quickly became realized as the player character acting as the group's leader and the respective player made it known that they saw all the people from this country as pigs that deserve death during the debriefing. Ooh boy. Reminder. Isn't this a real-world setting? The DM in character gives a, "Yes, I know your 2 countries don't get along, but the world is at stake here, so please bottle it up until the mission is over." This seemed to quiet them down, so I decided to hold off on adding my 2 cents until the end of the session, if they could contain themselves. However, that did not last. Pretty much as soon as we made contact with the civilization in the area, he was back at it. Blah, 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 pigs, yada, 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 deserve what's coming to them, grr, grr, grr. Should be left to die, blah, blah, blah. At this point, I'm telling them to just cut it out. He stops again, but apparently had it in him to go one more round before the game ended for the night. The game ended late, so I decided to bring it up once I had gotten a proper night's sleep first. I wanted to compose my thoughts and wouldn't want to be unnecessarily hostile due to how tired I was, in a way that could make it hard to communicate openly and honestly. Smart idea, but I will say, wouldn't blame you if you responded with a little hostility, because racism is pretty hostile. With that done, I first took it to the table, minus the problem player, to see if we could get a full group intervention going. But to my surprise, the other players, including the game master, didn't see what the problem was or why it was problematic at all. They even defended it, saying that they knew this player was like this before inviting them to the group, but in their words, they always let it slip, assuming it's a mental condition. To be racist, and made it clear that next session would go on for usual without saying anything to this player. So I just quit the game there. I didn't want to deal with that kind of environment while knowing I couldn't count on anyone had my back on keeping such behavior in check. However, for the sake of closure, I still talked to the problem player one-on-one to clear the air. Here's the kicker. He was way easier to talk to and way more receptive to what I was saying. He apologized, saying that he was genuinely sorry his actions made me uncomfortable at the table and led to me leaving the table, but understood why I was doing so and wished me well. Who knows how much of it was true, but compared to the conversation with the rest of the table, it was a breath of fresh air. I've since found another tabletop role-playing game group to fill in the gaps, and things are going great. Here's hoping that player actually does change for the better. Yeah, I understand that, oh, it's technically fantasy racism. But number one, apparently this takes place in the real world, so you'll forgive me if I kind of let that excuse fall by the wayside. And besides, even with fantasy racism, it can make people uncomfortable when taken to such an extreme degree. I mean, stuff like this can just get a little too heavy for your average Saturday morning gaming group. The fact that everyone else did not see any form of problem at all with this behavior is a little concerning, but hey, at least you realized what you should have done and just walked away. It's not worth trying to salvage this, and hey, nice bonus, this guy seems apologetic. Maybe he will change for the better. Who knows? It's never too late after all. You can always choose to be better. Hey guys, long-time lurker, first-time poster. I feel like I'm going crazy here, but I figured the sub might enjoy the story either way. The game. This was a Black Crusade game I played in over on Start Playing. For those of you who don't know, Black Crusade is a game set in the Warhammer 40k universe. Think Star Wars on bath salts. The party plays as Chaos Cultists, champions of demonic gods who are briefly working together to overthrow the hated Imperium. Think the Rebel Alliance if the Force came from hell and slowly turned you into a mutant. Also, side note, you're playing on Start Playing, right? So, all of what I'm gonna read is from a paid game, which makes all of this way better. This is an old, fiddly, really unbalanced system, but to be fair, how do you balance a system where half of the party are post-human warriors in tank armor, and half aren't? The pitch. What caught my eye about this game was that the game master pitched the game as a more lighthearted, self-aware, tongue-in-cheek take on the setting. He specifically compared it to the Venture Brothers, a show I love, so that was my expectation. Now, joining. I actually joined the game a little late. I believe I joined in session 3. The game master had complained that the party was too focused on combat, so I made a human character, a cyborg tech priest with a medkit who could patch people up between combats. The rest of the party, which I believe was now 7 people, was another tech priest and 6 space marines, ancient and nigh immortal combat monsters. There had been an 8th player, but he had just quit the prior session. Remember this, that's foreshadowing. Campaign 1. The first campaign, which I want to say lasted 3 more sessions, was taken from the back of the book. No big deal, it was actually a good setup. You all meet with a kooky priest who invites you to his library, but then he betrays you! And then you have to work together to fight your way out. The problem is, I don't really remember anything from those 3 sessions, besides the combat, highlights of which include my character nearly losing an eye to a cybernetic angel baby? What? And the other tech priest getting one shot at turn 1 of the final battle because he wasn't wearing a helmet? Okay, come on. That's on him. Does anyone remember Oberyn Martell? Because I remember. I'll always remember. Anyway, that poor guy spent 3 turns of combat on the ground. It was during this time that I noticed something annoying about the Game Master. It's not that he wanted to railroad players, rather it seemed that every challenge seemed to have a set solution, and he didn't like when the players tried to diverge from it. For instance, after the final battle, we're trapped and heavily injured in a demonic library that is now swarming with hostiles. Can we climb to the sky roof? No. Can we steal from one of the transports? No. Is there a secret passage out? No. We hide the bodies as to not alert anyone who comes in. You're wasting time. It made for a very frustrating gaming experience. Campaign 2. For Campaign 2, only 3 players returned. Me, the other tech priest, and the Space Marine medic. This was now session 6. We'd lost 5 players out of 8. To be fair, this was a paid game, and one of the guys ran into unexpected expenses when his car broke down. But still, 4 players out of 8, the medic wanted to develop a virus bomb, a sort of synthetic plague, as a service to his god. So the game master created an entirely new adventure for it. As the first half of the first session, it was actually fun. We got to roleplay a little with the crew of the ship we were on. There was a gym bro tech priest, the entourage of soldiers under our command. They had personalities and stuff, and credit where credit is due, he did let me take a homebrew motorcycle. But then there were problems. The game master seemed very short-tempered. He also didn't like that us tech priests were too mechanical to feel the cold, or that everyone had gas masks so we could ignore the planet's polluted atmosphere. I mean, aren't these guys supposed to be like expert warriors? What, is the game master just bad that they're being half intelligent? Like, You fools who are climbing Mount Everest, stop wearing winter coats so you don't get hypothermia and die. That's dumb. It's like, not everyone's the Fellowship of the Ring climbing a mountain with zero gear to compensate for it. Come on. Anyway, we end up crash landing on the planet, an abandoned frozen hellscape covered in the bones of dead dinosaurs. Our shuttle had been shot down by a AA gun, so our first course of action was to find the thing. That was session 1. The medic, whose quest this was, didn't make it to session 2. A new player joined, ironically enough, another space marine who worships disease. How coincidental. But it's now session 7, and 6 players have left. We find the AA gun, and it turns out to be a spider tank with AA missiles, twin Gatling guns, smoke screens, and armor that none of my weapons can pierce. Now, we are on a featureless white plain. There is nowhere to take cover. The 5 soldiers that are with us decide not to waste ammo shooting at the thing when it pops smoke. Rules as written. They should have still tried to suppress it. I even ordered them to. And this thing's missiles can kill a player in 1 hit. We fight it for some time, surviving only because the other tech priest had a an anti-tank weapon. But the new guy decides to fight it up close. So naturally, when it dies, it explodes and hits him with a missile. The game master rolled something like 70 damage, then retconned it to be less. But the new guy still ended up taking permanent stat losses from the hit. In this first session, from a monster he defeated because he was standing too close to it when it died. Okay, one thing. I know we see GMs doing terrible things like SA in games, so this seems innocuous, but seriously, retconning damage you already said is one of the most immersion-breaking things you could do. Like, completely game-ruining. Never do this. The last session. With the Spire Tank dead, we called for a shuttle, which gave us 3 acquisition rolls to use between sessions. In Black Crusade, players don't have money. They acquire equipment based on their infamy, an abstract measure of how respected they are. You can roll the roll easier by trying to find lower quality gear, or make it harder by getting duplicates of the same item. So I decided to get a new gun, with several downsides to make it more likely that I get it. A camo cloak because I failed that stealth roll from earlier, and 4 pieces of subdermal armor because I'm a little too squishy. The game master doesn't like this. He accuses me of cheating for trying to get 4 items with 1 roll. When I point out that I can do this, and this item is actually easier to find for my character, he informs me that the ship doesn't have the cybernetic items to acquire. So I go with a second gun as backup. He then accuses me of power gaming for stacking on multiple disadvantages on the same weapon. The game ends, and at which point I message him privately to tell him that I'm not having fun. It's been 5 sessions. I have contributed to the story maybe once, when I outran a missile on my motorcycle. I have killed a single enemy, despite most of the game being combat, and now we're fighting enemies that my weapons literally just can't hurt. I would prefer to do something outside of combat, because my character class by design is not combat focused, but if we're going to do nothing but combat, and combat is way above our level, he'll forgive me if I try to game the system a little bit. The GM loses his crap. I'm too focused on the numbers. I pointed out that my character has maybe a 25% chance to hit an enemy each turn. I haven't been using my abilities right. A very generous reading of the rules gives me a 40% chance to give another character an additional 10% to hit. I haven't tried to do anything outside of combat in a featureless, frozen wasteland with no NPCs. Oh! This game master's running Fallout 76. On launch. Apparently it's good now, but I have no idea. He says I shouldn't have come on the adventure if I thought it was too dangerous.
Hero, please. My children are starving.
My home is burning to the ground.
I must have help.
No.
What?
Because this quest sounds boring, and frankly, I got better things to do.
Oh, thank God!
Wait, what?
Thank you. Thank you. At last, you are perfect for this task.
Where's the cheering coming from?
The task of refusing the adventure. After long centuries, we have first.
I'm trying to be a problem player here.
Centuries, we have at last.
When I pointed out the absurdity of refusing the call to action in RPG, he insisted I should have stayed on the ship and done something else. He also insisted that enemies I literally have no means of hurting, and which can kill even more powerful enemies with an attack, are actually weaker than us. The other players had sabotaged the power curve of the game by min-maxing. They'd taken mass-produced military hardware as their starting equipment. Another player had screwed the party over in the first campaign by withholding a crucial piece of information, a fact that never came into play because the game master ignored the effects of this. Finally, he called me a crappy player. So I pointed out that we were about to begin Session 8 of a campaign in which 6 players have already left, and it wasn't because I was a crappy player. The game master just quits. Naturally, he blocks me on Discord, threw me out of the Discord group, canceled the game we were playing, and quite possibly canceled several others because all his games on the site now have 0 players. It's possible that I was a bit of a jerk. Maybe I could have used my words better, but it seems to me that if someone comes to you privately with concerns about the game they're playing, attacking them for it is counterproductive. The ability to take constructive criticism is an important one, and not everyone has it. You are dang right on that front. Yeah, this guy has no idea what he's doing in terms of balancing combats. Look, I love challenging combats. You guys know this. Some of you guys know it a little bit too well because I talk about it nonstop. Sorry about that, by the way. But here, it's very much relevant. I love challenging campaigns, and I love making my players sweat. However, number one, I don't hold it against my players when they have somewhat optimized characters, or very optimized characters. I do try to discourage gotcha builds that basically just crush anything that I put in front of them unless I create a very specific encounter to counter it. I don't want to ever do that. But a wizard taking optimal spells and maxing intelligence, that's not min-maxing to me. That's just building your character in a smart way and being ready for the combats I put in front of you. The combats this GM is doing aren't challenging. They're just BS. These aren't the Raphael fight in Baldur's Gate 3. They're the House of Grief fight in Baldur's Gate 3, if you catch my drift. No one likes fights like these. They just suck. Also, this was a paid game, making it way funnier. Just saying. Alright, and that's a wrap. This one is going to be a bit shorter, as is Monday's video. At least, I think. I'm horrible at timing out videos. But I'm on vacation right now, probably editing this on the flight over there, which is cool. So, if you guys enjoyed it, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of my content, then you can check out our Q and Play series, where I answer your questions in a rambling, unscripted format while playing some video games. It's linked in the cards. We just published a new one. And while you're there, subscribe to Crispy Tavern to get more of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down in the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment kicked for a meme to let me know you made it to the end of the video. Hey, by the way, if you have your own horror stories, you can send them directly to us. There's an email down in the description down below. Sending stories our way for a chance to be featured in one of these videos. But hey, even if you don't have any stories, in essence, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you all next time. Farewell.